Hey guys, again, Coach Bandstra, thanks for having me today. I'm just going to talk my name is Nate Eimer. I'm the head football coach at West Aurora in Aurora, Illinois. We run the buck sweep quite a bit in our program, and I'm just going to talk about how we drill it, a little bit about how we organize our practices. And if you have any questions at all, you can email me right there at that address. Just a little quick bio on me, guys. I was hired at West Aurora in 2011. I am an alumni. The first 3 years, you can see our record right there was not very good. Since we've gone to the Wing T, we are 36-23. We also made the playoffs for the first time in over 20 years in 2015 and won our first playoff game in over 20 years in 2018. For all you dads out there, I am a dad of 3 kids under 6. So if you are stressed and you are busy, I get it. So I just want to tell you a little bit about me. One thing that I do want to talk about, I always do this with part of my slides, it's just something if you're a young head coach or somebody that's aspiring to be a head coach, just some advice of some things that I've been through. And one thing that, a big thing that I always want to talk about is who are you hiring? And you can see some of the examples that I have up there, but the big thing when I talk about this in particular is like, you can always find the guy that's really good at X's and O's. You can always find the guy, that's been coaching O-line for 30 years. You can always find, the young, energetic coach. But these are the kind of staples to me, guys, that have really helped us be successful in terms of the kind of coaches that we have, guys that text you at 12 a.m. after a 1-6 start, a guy that emails you the morning after a playoff loss to tell you how great of a job you did. The coach that meets you in order to tell you to hang in there after our program straight 10th loss. Yes, that actually happened with all the success we've had over the past 3 years. Then the guy that randomly texts on you to check in on your family. Just something to think about, something that I think is important, especially for the young head coaches out there or guys that are aspiring to be head coaches, and thinking about the type of guys that you want to hire. Who is West Aurora? We are a big school, guys, 3,600 plus students. We are very diverse. We are about 50% low income. And the reason I bring that up is there's just some guys sometimes, that can relate to you by the type of school that they are and some that aren't, but just something to have that you can relate to us. All right, so our golden rules for running buck. Now, there's some other presentations, guys. If you want any of my presentations, I actually have 4 others that go with this particular one. Let me know, because it sometimes explains a little bit of this. But for us, guys, when we run buck, we got to protect our A-gaps. Our backs need to get vertical. Got to have your guards find a way to get through. Need to understand that penetration is going to happen on buck. The better the edge, the better the play. One thing that we've cheated in our past is our tight end. Your tight end's got to be a guy that can block, and he's got to be physical. And then 6, the better athlete, not necessarily the true running back, the better the play. These are tough fits for running backs when you're running the buck play, and you give them that chosen path to run. Okay, so this presentation is all about our drills, and in particular, how we come up with our buck drills and how we get to the play that we run. So one thing that I would tell you when doing this is, for us, buck is our base play. Maybe your base play is inside zone. Maybe your base play is ISO. Maybe it's power. Whatever your base play is, this is something I think that's very important that you need to write down and understand, so that when you are talking to your coaches, they know what kind of drills they should run. So I'm not going to read through all these, but if you look at the O-line, tight end, and the quarterback, these are the things that go with really our buck play or our whole 20 series play. Okay, and I write all these things down whenever we talk about our base plays or plays that we want to run. There's our split ends and there's our running backs. And you're probably like, well, why do you do that? It's very important when you're developing drills that you develop drills that fit your offense. Like, for instance, if I went onto Twitter or social media right now, I could find a lot of cool drills, right? I could find a lot of wide receiver drills, a lot of cones, and I could find a lot of O-line drills, doing all these cool things with pads. But if your drills don't match your offense and what you do, there's not really a reason to do them. And you'll also start to see, if you're developing the right offense, you're asking an offensive tackle, to do 5 to 8 to 10 different skill sets. If you're developing an offense, you notice you're asking your offensive tackle to learn 15 different steps and 20 different techniques, you probably need to change that. So again, these are just the things that I wrote down as we start talking about our buck play and really our 20 series for those of you guys that are familiar with Wing T. Okay, so my philosophy for individual drills, you're going to see a couple practice plans up here. I've gone to Google Slides, and not Google Slides. I can't even think of the name. Maybe Coach Bandstra can help me out. But where it's on Google, and it's like an Excel sheet. I put together my practice scripts every day of what we were going to run. It's your job as an individual coach then to plan and do your individual to get you there. We Google sheet it at practices. There it is. It's on my sheet. So you can kind of see like that's how our practice plan looks at the end. I will show you on this next slide. So this is, So this is also what my coaches get before practice, like usually a couple days ahead of time. These are the plays that we're going to run in team. So like we do some segments, and again, this is probably a whole nother topic of like a team O versus D 3rd and 7, a team O run and a team, and they get the play so they know what individual drills they know they need to do. You know, some guys do like a whole group and then a small group and then back to a whole group. My philosophy is I gave you the plays, your kids better come ready when we go to team. So again, here is a blank practice plan. This is what a practice plan would look like before my coaches fill it in. So you can see all the coaches at the top of it. This is a Google sheet so they can fill it in whenever they need to. These are the segments that are non-negotiable. And then I expect my coaches to fill it in so it looks like this. So again, I'll go back. I send them this, you know, something similar to this. This is actually a recent practice plan of ours. And then I expect them by the time they get to practice to have it filled in like this. And what I fill in are the non-negotiables. So again, just kind of an idea of how we develop practice. One thing before we get started, guys, because some of these slides I'm going to go through quickly other than others, because one of my philosophies, again, is that I hire you to do a job. You know, like I don't tell Coach Murphy, you see up there at quarterbacks, like I give him some general things that we need to do. But if he finds a better technique and it works with his kids, then I allow them to do that. You know, our O-line coach does certain drills and I allow him to do those things, and he's come up with them and develop them. And usually I have those guys on this list, but those are my offensive staff. If you ever want to email them, ask about drills, feel free. Okay, how we break down our drills is probably pretty similar. We have individual, small group, which we call our mesh and our buck, and then we do team. So one thing, if you have a base play, guys, you need to devote a good portion of your team to just that play so your kids get good at it and they can run it into anything. Okay, first one is for the line. This is one that I really like, and our O-line coach developed this like 2 years ago. He calls it 4-on-4 buck warm-up. This is something they typically do. They'll do like footwork, and then they'll just do some basic bag hitting, and then they get on and basically do 4-on-4 buck. So obviously the one thing that you don't see here is your backside tackle, right? Because your backside tackle on buck is usually touchdown alley, cutting off that 3-tech, securing that B gap. And it's pretty simple, guys. There's 4 lines, they rotate fast, there's bag holders, all the kids play all the positions, and they just move down so that they can learn all these positions. Coach will move the bag holders into different spots. If you're prepping for a team, you can talk about the different fronts you're gonna have, but this is, you know, more of a slowed down, focused drill just for the O-lineman. Very simple, not a lot to it. Just rotate all your guys through, and you can kind of envision how it would go. So then you also can, this is a quick way, you know, it's hard in team to get your right tackle to play center, you know, just to have them ready, or that's probably not necessarily a good one, but your guard to play tackle. This is a good situation in which you can do that. So just a basic 4-on-4 buck drill. That's one way that we practice, but this is just with our O-lineman. Okay. Here's some other drills. And again, I can send you this, but I'm not going to go into this too much, but this is how we do our pull drill. You can kind of see the film as we go through. Okay, one thing with our pulls this year, we are going to try to get a lot deeper. Here's a second cut of that. Okay, coach is telling them where to go, what to see. Then our pull drills with our footwork, we get our boards out so we get a nice fit. And then again, here's our pull down the line that we get a nice fit. Okay. You know, big emphasis on this one thing this year is we need to get a lot more depth on our pulls, but knowing where you're going on your pulls. But those are just some basic drills that we also do with our linemen. Next one up is our running back drills. And again, if you have some questions about this, you can always email the coach up there, Jay Howell. Coach Howell is our running backs coach, and these are just some different things. He uses the phrase bird dog a lot. he likes to walk through his steps at running back quite a bit. And obviously in the wing tee, we have a fullback, a halfback, and a wing. And he goes through all of those footwork. So as you can see right here, he uses a lot of the wing fire steps. I think it's one of the most difficult blocks that we have. And I would tell you the coach probably does like 3 separate 5-minute drills, one nice and slow like this, and then they pick up as they go. We'll adjust the footwork based on the player. We'll also adjust the footwork based on a scout. Like for instance, those of you guys have done wing tee, you get spinners sometimes, right? And you want to talk about, where we need to put our hand placements. Sometimes you get those kids that want to chase the tight end, so we'll talk about maybe having a bigger first step and making sure we're getting into them and driving them down the line. This is the bird dog. So like basically walking through your fullback steps, right? So you can see off the midline on buck and then on the midline on trap. And if you listen to my buck and my 20 series presentation, that would probably make a little more sense. But whenever we run buck, as a fullback, we're not getting the ball. So our footwork is going to change just a slight bit. Okay, when we are running buck, we're going to be right on the midline. So we should be straight downhill. But these are just walking through steps. Again, the way we practice, our running backs all go together. So we make sure that at least our wings and our fullbacks are getting the same footwork and doing the same steps. And there's the halfback steps. Again, a lot of you guys probably know this stuff, but one thing that's important is like you can't assume that your kids know how to do this stuff. You got to practice this stuff every single day. You got to start out slow. These are definitely things at the lower levels that we give and we emphasize for our kids to do. So by the time they get to the varsity, these are drills that they really know how to do. Fire block, this is one of the most simple ones that I really like that coach does. It's a pretty intense tempo one. I mean, the kids give a little bit, but basically there's a player who is standing at the yellow triangle right there, and our wing is in 3x1, and he is just working on blocking them. And the coach Howell will talk about the guy spinning out, going forward or going straight ahead, and the different things that you need to do as a wing when you're blocking that guy. And again, just noticing the attention to detail, guys, that we spend on every single part of our play so that buck really does become a staple in our offense. Wide receiver drills for buck, and you're probably wondering how in the world does a wide receiver do any drills for buck? Basic stock blocking drill, guys, I'm not going to show that. A mirror drill is one that we can do, but the one that we talk about for us on buck, and this is just me philosophically, most of the time in high school, a defense, they put some of their worst tacklers at cornerback. So we do not spend a lot of time blocking cornerbacks when we run buck. We talk about getting to the hole call. So this necessarily isn't a buck drill as much as it is our entire offensive drill. So again, the way we do holes, and again, this would have been in another presentation, but if you go to the right of the formation, like we're kind of old school, we go 1, and then our tight end is 2, and then our right tackle is a 3, and our right guard is a 4, and the center is a 5, and the left guard is a 6, and our left tackle is a 7. The left tight end would be an 8, and then outside that would be a 9. So one thing that we talk about with our receivers, if you're on the left and we call a 24 trap, well, I don't want you blocking the corner. I want you getting to the free safety in the hole, and then if you're blocking a 22 buck and you're on the left, since that is the right tight end, we want you working all the way to the other side of the field. So I kind of think I did a pretty good job with this. So this is how this drill works. I know this sounds really simple, but it's something that we do, and I think it's very, very important. You have a wide receiver coach. There's the smiley face. You have 2 lines of wide receivers, one at the 9 hole, one at the 1 hole, okay? Coach will instruct left side up, and he'll say 7, okay? Then he'll say down, set, go, and the receiver then should take a path and run to the 7 hole at the 3rd level. So we always talk about blocking in levels. So like D-line is the 1st level, linebacker is the 2nd level, 3rd level is the DBs, free safety, kids like that. And it trains kids to get to the hole over the man, and someone will show up. Keep working. So there goes your yellow dot. He moves to that hole. All right, and then the next kid comes up, and that kid goes to the end of the line, right? And then we just go through this, and it's a rapid fire drill, right? You're working on steps. And the reason we do this right here, guys, most teams we play, cornerbacks are the worst tacklers. Training your kids to get the touchdown alley, right? Like as a coach, how many times in the film do you sit there and you say, got to get to touchdown alley, got to get to touchdown alley. Well, this trains those guys to get there. And where do your big blocks come from? Your big plays, they come from third level blocks, from people busting their tails down the field in order to get there. It also sets up your post corner on the backside of waggle a lot better. So here's just a few examples. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but I believe the call here for us is a little bit ways back. This is spread left. This is 28 buck. Our kid really should come to the third level, but you can see our wide receiver out there. He blocks in the hole. Okay. I would like him to move up to the third level, but as you can see, he's trained. He comes down in the hole. He's not necessarily blocking the corner. Here's another example of this. Okay. This is our end over, 22 buck. Again, he keeps coming down. He's in the hole. And again, at that time, the kid made a pretty good play, but these are just examples of what we coach and how the kids get there. Mesh drill. Here's the one thing I would tell you guys, and this became a big part of me. My first job, we were an option football team way back in the day, and we used to do mesh drill. You know, we were pretty good at it. And then I got to West High my first couple of years, like we having all these quarterback center exchanges and quarterback halfback exchanges. And, you know, I was kind of figuring out why. And it's because we didn't spend time just hand the ball off. So one thing that we do with our mesh drill is we do this every single day. Now the 20 series all goes together, right? So those of you guys that are wing T guy, you know, we run buck, we run trap, we run tackle trap, and we run waggle, we run some crisscross. You know, we do a lot of different things, but the main basic ones we work on is our trap, our buck, and our waggle. So we do this in 2 stages. We actually do this with no ball. This is a great drill, especially when you have lower level kids, to kind of train them how these things go together. Like when you run waggle the right way, right? Every single time your wing, your halfback, your quarterback, and your fullback at least are starting out with the same first step. You know, and then you can talk about, well, who gets the ball on buck? The halfback. You know, who gets the ball on trap? The fullback. What do we do different on waggle? Well, you know, the fullback, instead of crossing over, he ends up in the flat. The wing, instead of fire blocking, he just carries it up into a crossing route, and the halfback takes a good fake. And then we'll also call out buck. We'll call out 22 and 28 buck. So here is our quarterbacks. This is back in the winter here, pre-COVID, just running through some no ball left side buck drill. So a couple of things we emphasize here, you know, we'll talk about you get the midline, you have the midline. We want our fullback working on his proper steps. Our wing should be fire blocking, and our halfback should be running his path, and our quarterback should be, you know, going through, staying on the midline and carrying out his fake. And again, these are all quarterbacks doing this, so don't be too upset with the footwork here. So this is no ball. That's left side no ball, right? And again, you guys can kind of envision those that are wing T guys. This is how we start. The best thing, honestly, I ever did with this coaches out there is we ran a youth camp one time, and we had our middle school coaches around, and I had them all come, and they just struggled. They're like, Coach, how do you get the kids to do all these plays and da-da-da-da-da-da-da? And I did this drill with them no ball for like 5 minutes straight. I just said left side no ball, right side no ball. And then all of a sudden, the next 5 minutes, we started putting the ball, and the kids were running the plays like clockwork. It's a great offense, again, because everything kind of goes together, which is one reason that I like it. And whatever we keep building, I try my best to do that. Here's left side, no ball. So again, this would be right side. So again, not great footwork. You can see our quarterback out there working on his fire step, but you kind of get the picture. And then we just kind of add in the ball, right? So we'd say on that one, 22 buck. Right? And hopefully your kids are running the same footwork and doing the exact same thing that they did before. Okay, now this is another thing that's cool, right? Like let's say early on, this is what I really like, but let's say early on in camp, you got your freshmen, sophomores, and varsity all together and you want to run through this. Well, you can have a coach in the middle, you can have your quarterback who is a red, you know, your left wing who is a green, your fullback who is a blue, and your right wing who is pink, and you can just call out plays. You could go no ball, then you could go 22 buck, then you could go 24 trap, and you could get lots and lots of reps. Another thing, guys, for me philosophically at practice is every single time that I design something. So if I took you back to our practice plans, my number one goal is to have the least amount of kids standing around. The longer that I do this, the more that I believe anything over a 2-hour practice is not doing the kids any good. I want everybody to get reps. I want everybody to run through stuff, and I want to go as fast as I can and get as much as I can done in a 2-hour time frame. And this allows me, because if you had 3 quarterbacks and 3 sets of backs, you can get lots and lots of reps instead of people standing around and watching. Okay, then you just flip the formation, okay, when we do our mesh drill. And then we go from there. This has turned into my favorite drill, and it's super simple. We call it buck drill. We do this every single day. We actually recently had practice. I forgot to put it on the practice plan, and I literally felt like I messed up. Just forgot about it in this COVID era, and everything going on. So who does it? The running backs, the tight ends, and the O-lines. Typically during this time, again, if you remember what I just talked about with practice plan, I try to have my quarterbacks and receivers working on another skill while these guys are doing this. We go from walkthrough to 50% to full speed buck. Why do we do this? So we can slow down and emphasize the most important parts of this play. So like flat steps on fire blocks. We call fire blocks down blocks. We call down blocks fire blocks. Get vertical on the fire block if nobody shows, right? So like 1-2 tap and then get yourself vertical. Get your halfback behind the guard. We saw some great clinic stuff this week. That is one thing we really need to work on with our halfbacks, is getting behind the guard and getting vertical. Talking about the pull and kick versus the pull and lead, and then backside getting to touchdown alley. So again, those are the things we emphasize. And what's neat about this, guys, if you follow my presentation, when we're doing individual drills, we do the same thing, right? And the more you tell kids, the more muscle memory, the better it's going to be. So this is how we set up buck drill, right? We get all our offensive guys. This is no defense. Okay, this is just offensive guys. We have no quarterback. We just get a 3-5-3 defense set up, and we block. There's a coach right here. There's a coach right there. So that could be your O-line coach, and the blue could be your running back coach, okay? And then this is the great thing about it is you just move the kids around. You go, all right, guys, we're going to go against a 4-4 look now. And we go from here, and we do the same thing, right? Coach calls out the play, 22 buck, run the play. Let's rock and roll. Okay, maybe it's a 3-4 Okie look, right? Go ahead, run the play, go through it. Okay, so the kids are starting to see a lot of different defensive sets as we go through this. Okay, and then we've talked about this in a different presentation, but okay, so if we get double ones, okay, I call ones inside of the guard for those of you out there that are listening. I call ones inside of the guards. If we get double ones, well, for us that means we can't pull both guards on buck. So then what do, right? How do our kids react? And we make that call, and then we go from there, okay? And something what we wanted to do, this is that I did from a clinic before, is we thought about it would be really beneficial because we get some practice time in the summer, is to look at our 2019 opponents and how they defended us when we were in certain formations, and then work buck 15 minutes each drill versus those defenses. So like, for instance, our first week opponent would have been Plainfield South this year. We would work 15 minutes versus them in a summer practice, and then we'd go from there. Just so our kids, because I think the biggest thing, guys, I would tell you this from learning and coaching over the years, is you have to develop a system that on Friday night, your kids are ready for something different. I mean, you could be the best coach in the world and as an offensive coordinator, and that defensive coordinator over there could just do something completely different, and you can't waste time figuring it out. Like, you got to have some plays where you're just like, I'm going to call this and we're going to go with it no matter what front and what they do with it. And for us, that is buck. Team buck, just something I talked about. It's really simple, guys. We just come up and we'll throw in waggles so our defense doesn't cheat. But we go through and we dedicate 15 minutes to just running buck. Scout team knows it's coming, and I want them to know that. Just keep running buck over and over, and we probably sneak in a few waggles. I'm a big multiple formation, same play guy, so we might run buck next year out of like 7 or 8 formations, and usually we'll throw in like a special one from time to time too. There's our offensive staff. If you guys have any questions specifically, also, if you guys want, this presentation is like, I think it's 5 or 6 presentations I did at the Glacier this past year that kind of explains a lot more thing. I'll send it to you. I'm just in here to develop community and continue to work and coach and get better and help anybody out there that wants any help.